Tonight, you're going to watch the sky fall apart. But first, you're going to finish your coffee. You're 19, standing on the deck of a battleship in the middle of the Pacific, and you've never felt safer. You're about to learn that the safest places are often just the quietest before the storm. So, before that quiet shatters, take a moment to subscribe if you enjoy these journeys into history. I'm always curious to see where in the world you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, get cozy, and let's drift back together. The ship hums gently beneath you, a steady, mechanical lullaby. The year is 1941. It's just before 8 a.m. on a quiet Sunday. You hear the distant sound of an airplane engine, but you don't think anything of it. Nobody ever does. The morning wraps you in a deceptive embrace, its warmth as soft as a lover's whisper, yet as fleeting as a dream you can't quite hold. You're 19, standing barefoot on the steel deck of the USS Arizona, the Pacific sun painting gold across your skin. The air carries the sharp tang of sea salt, mingling with the rich, bitter aroma of coffee drifting from the mess hall below. Somewhere nearby, a harmonica sighs, its notes lazy and meandering, like a breeze too tired to rush. You lean against the railing, the metal cool against your palms, and gaze toward Ford Island, where the water shimmers like a promise of eternity. This is Hawaii, December 7, 1941, and for a moment, the world feels so still, so safe. It's as if war is a story told in some other lifetime. You shift your weight, the deck's faint hum vibrating through your soles, a mechanical heartbeat steady enough to lull your thoughts. Last night, you scrawled a letter to your mother, words spilling about palm trees, turquoise waves, and a sky so blue it hurts to look at. You called this place paradise, and as the sun climbs higher, you almost believe it. Your friend Jimmy slouches beside you, his grin as wide as the horizon, his cap tilted just enough to hint at mischief. Honolulu tonight, he says, voice low and conspiratorial, as if the city's neon lights and cold beers are a secret only you share. You nod, imagining the clink of glasses, the laughter of strangers, a night free from the grind of drills and polish. The thought curls in your chest, light as a feather, heavy as hope. Yet beneath this calm, something stirs, an itch you can't name, like a shadow slipping across a sunlit room. The crew around you moves with Sunday ease. A sailor polishes a brass fitting until it gleams. Another hums a tune about a girl back in Kansas. You watch them, these men who've become your brothers, their faces young but weathered, etched with dreams of home and futures unwritten. You wonder if they feel it too. This quiet that feels too perfect, too fragile, like glass waiting to shatter. The harmonica falters, then picks up again, its melody a thin thread tying you to this moment. You close your eyes, letting the warmth sink into your bones, and for a second, you're just a kid again, not a sailor, not a cog in a war machine that hasn't yet roared to life. But then, a sound cuts through the haze. It's faint at first, a low drone, not the familiar buzz of American planes practicing loops over Oahu. This is deeper, hungrier, like a beast prowling just beyond sight. You open your eyes, squinting against the glare, and scan the sky. Nothing, just endless blue, a few clouds drifting like forgotten thoughts. Jimmy nudges you, his grin fading. "What's that?" he mutters, head tilted, as if the answer might fall from above. Others notice too, heads turn, hands pause mid-task, eyes narrow. The drone grows, a guttural hum that seems to press against your chest, stealing the air. A sailor near the turret shouts, his voice sharp with unease, "Those aren't ours." Your stomach twists, a cold knot forming where moments ago there was only warmth. You grip the railing tighter, the metal no longer cool but slick with sudden sweat. The harmonica stops, its absence louder than its song. Around you, the deck stirs, a ripple of movement, a collective holding of breath. You want to laugh it off, to call it a drill gone wrong. But the air feels heavier now, laced with something you can't name. Jimmy's eyes meet yours, and for the first time, his grin is gone, replaced by a flicker of doubt. The drone swells, a chorus of unseen engines, and you realize with a jolt that paradise has a pulse, and it's racing. You glance toward Ford Island again, but the shimmer on the water no longer feels like a promise. It feels like a warning, a mirror reflecting a truth you're not ready to see. This moment, this fleeting calm, is a luxury you didn't know you were borrowing. You think of your mother reading your letter in a kitchen half a world away, smiling at your talk of waves and sunsets. You think of the sailors around you, their lives woven into this ship, this morning, this fragile piece. History will mark this day, but you don't know that yet. You only know the sun on your face, the salt in your lungs, and the growing hum that feels like fate clearing its throat. In another life, you'd finish your coffee, laugh with Jimmy, and dance in Honolulu's glow. But life, like war, doesn't care for plans. The sky is about to crack open, and you, standing on this steel giant, are about to learn what it costs to survive when paradise burns. The irony isn't lost on you, even now, though you don't have the words for it yet. You're 19, young enough to believe in safety, old enough to sense its lie. The USS Arizona, a fortress of steel, feels eternal, but eternity is a trick the morning plays. You shift your gaze to the horizon, where the drone is no longer a hum, but a growl, and you wonder, in that quiet corner of your mind, if this is how the world ends, not with a bang, but with a sound you ignored until it was too late. The coffee in your mind's eye grows cold. The harmonica's echo fades, and you stand, frozen, as the first dark shapes appear against the sky, like vultures circling a feast they've already claimed. The air thickens, a sudden weight pressing against your ribs, as if the ocean itself has exhaled a warning. You're still on the deck of the USS Arizona, but the Sunday morning's warmth now feels like a cruel jest, a velvet glove hiding a fist of iron. The low drone you noticed moments ago has swollen into a guttural snarl, clawing at the edges of your awareness. You squint into the endless blue above, your pulse quickening, searching for the source of this unnatural chorus. A shadow flickers at the horizon, then another, like ink spots bleeding across a canvas of sky. Your breath catches, sharp and shallow, as the shapes resolve into sleek silhouettes, wings glinting under the Hawaiian sun. These are not your planes. The realization lands like a stone in your gut, heavy and cold. Beside you, Jimmy's voice cracks, a half-formed question dying on his lips. What the hell? He trails off, his eyes wide, mirroring the unease rippling through the crew. Sailors pause mid-stride, their faces turning upward, hands shielding brows against the glare. A petty officer near the turret barks, "Those ain't ours." His words slice through the murmurs, raw and jagged, and the deck stirs like a beast rousing from slumber. You grip the railing, fingers biting into metal, as the silhouettes grow larger, their engines a relentless growl that drowns the memory of harmonicas and laughter. The sky, once a sanctuary, now feels like a trap, its vastness mocking your smallness. You're 19, a sailor on a steel fortress, yet in this moment, you're just a boy staring down a storm you didn't see coming. A glint catches your eye, a flash of glass or steel from one of the planes, so low you swear you glimpse the shadow of a face behind the cockpit. The red circle on its wings burns into your vision, a blood-bright emblem you've only seen in briefings, whispered about like a ghost story. Japan. The word lodges in your throat, unspoken, as the plane banks sharply, its nose dipping toward the harbor. A high-pitched whine pierces the air, a sound like the scream of a kettle left too long on the fire, and your heart lurches. Before you can process it, a massive plume of water erupts beside the USS West Virginia. The explosions roar, shaking the Arizona's deck beneath your feet. The blast sprays mist across your face, salty and sharp. A bitter baptism into a reality you're not ready to face. Chaos blooms like a wildfire. The alarm klaxons wail, a shrill, frantic cry that tears through the morning's last illusions. Sailors scramble, their shouts blending into a cacophony of panic and purpose. "To stations," someone yells, voice hoarse, but the words barely register. Your legs move before your mind catches up, carrying you toward the ladder to the gun deck, your boots slipping on the slick steel. Jimmy grabs your arm, his grip bruising, his face pale but fierce. "Stay sharp," he snaps, as if you could be anything else when the world is unraveling. You nod, though your thoughts are a jumble of fear and disbelief, a silent prayer that this is a mistake, a drill gone wrong. But the sky doesn't lie, and the planes keep coming, a swarm of steel locusts descending on the harbor. Another explosion rocks the fleet, this one closer, the concussion thumping against your chest like a fist. You glance back, just for a second, and see flames licking the side of the USS Oklahoma, her hull groaning under the weight of a torpedo's bite. The ship lists, slow and surreal, like a giant felled by an invisible axe. Your stomach churns, not from seasickness, but from the dawning horror that these ships, these titans of steel, are as mortal as the men inside them. The deck vibrates with the Arizona's engines, a futile pulse against the onslaught. You reach the ladder, your hands trembling as you climb, the rungs cold and unyielding. Above, the sky is alive with motion, planes diving, banking, their wings slicing through the air like knives through silk. You pause at the top, gasping, your lungs burning with the acrid bite of smoke already curling from the harbor. The red circles haunt you, those crimson suns emblazoned on wings that weave through the sky with lethal grace. You've heard of Japan's navy, their carriers lurking somewhere in the Pacific, but it was always abstract, a chess game played by men in far-off rooms. Now, it's real, and you're a pawn staring down a checkmate. A sailor shoves past you, his face streaked with sweat, shouting orders you can't decipher. You force yourself to move, ducking under a beam, your eyes darting to the horizon where more planes emerge, a second wave to feast on the carnage. The irony stings, though you don't name it. You trained for war, but war never trained you for this. A burst of machine gun fire rakes the deck below, the bullets sparking against steel like fireflies gone mad. You flinch, dropping to a crouch, your heart hammering so loud it drowns the klaxons. A scream cuts through the noise, not pain but rage, a sailor cursing the sky as he hauls a crate of ammo toward a gun turret. You want to join him, to shout, to do anything but cower, but your body betrays you, rooted by a fear so primal it feels like a stranger's. Yet, even in this paralysis, a quiet thought surfaces, wry and unbidden. You wanted adventure when you enlisted, but adventure, it seems, has a taste for blood. You shake it off, crawling toward the nearest gun station, the deck hot beneath your palms, the air thick with the stench of oil and cordite. History will call this the Pearl Harbor attack, a day that thrust America into the inferno of World War II. But you don't know that yet. You only know the weight of your fear, the sting of smoke in your eyes, and the relentless drone of engines that seem to mock your every breath. The USS Arizona, your home, your shield, groans under the strain, as if sensing the fate creeping closer. You think of the men below decks, trapped in steel corridors, their futures snuffed out before they can fight. You think of your mother, her face a blur in your memory, and wonder if she'll ever know how quickly paradise turned to ash. The comparison to today's world flickers in your mind, unformed but potent. You stand on the edge of oblivion, yet somehow you're still here, still moving, a testament to the stubbornness of life. The deck shudders again, another explosion rocking the fleet. You reach the gun station, your hands fumbling for the controls. You're training a fragile anchor in this storm. The planes are closer now, their shadows sweeping across the Arizona like vultures circling a dying beast. You look up, just for a moment, and see the red circles gleaming, a promise of ruin written in the sky. The alarm klaxons scream on, but they're distant now, drowned by the roar of your blood in your ears. You're not ready for this, but readiness is a luxury war doesn't offer. The first bombs fell minutes ago, yet it feels like a lifetime. You grip the gun, your knuckles white, and prepare to face a sky that's no longer yours, knowing that survival, if it comes, will cost more than you can yet imagine. The world fractures, a mosaic of steel and screams where moments ago there was only sky. You're on the USS Arizona's deck, but it's no longer a sanctuary. It's a stage for chaos, lit by the flare of distant fires. The klaxons wail claws at your ears, a relentless banshee shrieking of a war you didn't choose. Smoke stings your eyes, curling upward like a serpent tasting the air, and the acrid bite of burning oil coats your tongue. Your heart slams against your ribs, each beat a reminder that you're still here, still tethered to this nightmare. The harbour pulses with violence. Explosions bloom across the water, their thunder rolling through your bones. You stumble forward, boots skidding on slick metal, driven by a primal urge to move, to act, though where or why remains a blur. A sailor barrels past, his face a mask of grit and terror, shouting words lost in the din. You catch fragments, gun stations, and your body obeys before your mind agrees, lurching toward the nearest ladder. The deck tilts, not from the sea, but from another blast. This one so close it rattles your teeth. You glance starboard and see the USS West Virginia wreathed in flames, her hull bleeding black smoke into the dawn. The sight freezes you, a fleeting tableau of ruin, as if the ship is a wounded giant pleading for mercy. You blink, and the moment shatters. A spray of bullets stitches across the Arizona's deck, sparking like angry stars. You duck, instinct overriding thought, your knees scraping steel as you press yourself low. Around you, the crew is a whirlwind of motion. Men sprint, crawl, drag the wounded, their faces etched with defiance or despair. A young ensign, barely older than you, clutches a crate of shells, his knuckles white, his eyes wild with purpose. "Keep moving," he yells, voice cracking, and you wonder if he's shouting at you or himself. You crawl forward, the deck burning your palms, the air thick with the stench of cordite and fear. A sailor slumps against a turret, his shirt blooming crimson, his gaze fixed on something beyond the horizon. You look away, not out of callousness, but survival. A quiet bargain with yourself to keep going, to not let this moment claim you too. Yet, a wry thought flickers, unbidden. You signed up for adventure, but adventure, it seems, prefers to feast on blood. The Arizona groans, a deep metallic lament that vibrates through your core. Another explosion rocks the harbor, this time from the direction of the USS Nevada, her bow shrouded in a veil of fire. You force yourself to your feet, staggering as the deck lurches again, and catch sight of Jimmy, your friend, wrestling with a tangled hose near the forward turret. His face is streaked with soot, but his jaw is set, a stubborn anchor in this storm. "Get to the guns," he shouts, waving you on, and you nod, though the distance between you feels like a chasm. You want to stay, to help, but the claxons scream louder, and duty pulls you like a tide. You run, dodging a fallen beam, your breath ragged, your mind a kaleidoscope of fear and focus. The sky above is a battlefield, streaked with the dark arcs of Japanese planes, their wings flashing like blades in the sun. You glimpse the red circles again, those crimson emblems that mark the enemy, and a cold rage simmers beneath your panic. These are the Zero fighters and Kate bombers you've read about, machines of precision and death, now weaving through the harbor's defenses with chilling ease. History will note their numbers. 183 in this first wave. A fact you'll never learn in this moment, but you feel their weight, a swarm that turns the morning into a crucible. You reach a gun station, its crew already scrambling to load shells, their movements frantic yet practiced. A petty officer shoves you toward a control panel, barking, "Aim high, damn it." You fumble with the levers, your hands slick with sweat. You're training a fragile lifeline in this maelstrom. A burst of anti-aircraft fire erupts nearby, the concussion slamming your ears, leaving a high-pitched whine in its wake. You glance up, just for a second, and see a plane spiral downward, trailing smoke like a comet's tail. It crashes into the water, a brief victory swallowed by the harbor's burning expanse. You want to cheer, but the sound sticks in your throat, choked by the sight of more planes diving, their silhouettes relentless against the sky. The Arizona's guns roar, a defiant bellow, but the enemy's precision is surgical, their bombs and torpedoes finding flesh in the fleet's steel heart. You think of the men below decks, sealed in compartments now filling with water or fire, and a quiet despair settles in your chest, as if their fates are a mirror you're not ready to face. The deck is a chaos of sound and motion, shouts, clangs, the screech of metal twisting under strain. You spot a medic kneeling beside a wounded sailor, his hands slick with blood, his face calm in a way that feels obscene amidst the carnage. You want to help, to do something, but the petty officer's voice cuts through. "Eyes up." You obey, turning back to the gun, your fingers trembling as you adjust the sights. The irony isn't lost on you, though it's a fleeting shadow in your mind. You trained for war in classrooms and drills, but no drill prepared you for the smell of burning flesh, the weight of a dying man's stare. You fire, the gun bucking against your shoulder, and the recoil feels like the world pushing back, reminding you how small you are. Time bends, each second stretching into an eternity, yet slipping away too fast to grasp. You don't know how long you've been at the gun, minutes, hours, but your arms ache, your eyes burn, and the harbor is a tapestry of destruction. The USS California lists heavily, her deck awash with flames, while the USS Maryland spews smoke like a wounded dragon. You wonder, in a corner of your mind, how today's world would view this. Would they marvel at your resilience or pity your naivety? The thought fades as another plane dives, its scream piercing the haze, and you fire again, a futile act of defiance against a sky that's turned predator. You're surviving, but survival, your learning, is a currency paid in fragments of your soul. The Arizona shudders, a deep tremor that feels like the ship's own fear. You glance at Jimmy again, still at the hose, his silhouette blurred by smoke. You want to call out, to anchor yourself to his presence, but the words die in your throat. The klaxons wail on a chorus of doom, and you realize, with a clarity that cuts like glass, that this is no longer a ship but a target, no longer a home but a pyre. You fire another round, your hands steadier now, not from courage but from necessity, a quiet surrender to the rhythm of war. The sky keeps falling, and you, a boy caught in its shadow, are learning what it means to endure when paradise turns to ash. The air is a furnace, thick with the reek of scorched metal and despair, as you scramble across the USS Arizona's trembling deck. Each step feels like a betrayal of the calm you once knew. The steel beneath your boots, now a restless beast bucking against its fate. The sky above churns with menace, a canvas of smoke and shadow where Japanese planes dance like specters, their wings slicing through the dawn with predatory grace. Your lungs burn, not just from the acrid haze, but from a fear that coils tighter with every heartbeat. You're not running toward safety, there is none, but toward a gun, a frail gesture of defiance against a heavens turned hostile. The world has tilted, and you, a 19-year-old sailor, are caught in its spin, chasing a purpose you barely understand. You weave through the chaos, dodging a tangle of ropes and a crate spilling bullets like a broken necklace. A sailor's cry pierces the din, sharp and fleeting, as he vanishes behind a wall of smoke. You don't look back. Looking back is a luxury you can't afford. Your eyes lock on the anti-aircraft gun ahead, its barrel jutting skyward like a finger pointing at the gods. The deck lurches again, a deep groan rising from Arizona's bowels, and you stumble, catching yourself on a railing slick with something you refuse to name. A voice in your head, wry and uninvited, whispers that you trained for this moment, but training never mentioned the way smoke tastes like ash, or how fear feels like drowning on dry land. The gun station looms closer, manned by a handful of sailors moving with frantic precision, their faces carved with sweat and resolve. You slide into place beside them, your hands trembling as they grasp the cold metal controls. A chief petty officer, his uniform torn at the shoulder, barks, "Aim high, kid. They're coming fast." His voice is a lifeline, rough but steady, pulling you from the edge of panic. You nod, though your fingers fumble with the levers, your training a distant echo beneath the roar of the harbor. Above, the sky is a maelstrom of dark shapes, Zero fighters and Kate bombers weaving through bursts of flak, their red circle insignias mocking your efforts. You adjust the sights, your breath ragged, and pull the trigger. The gun bucks, a violent shudder that jars your bones, spitting shells into a sky that feels infinite and cruel. A plane dives low, its engine a scream that drowns your thoughts. You track it, the gun's recoil pounding your shoulder, and watch as your rounds vanish into the haze. Did you hit it? You don't know, and there's no time to wonder. Another plane follows, its silhouette sharp against the morning light, dropping a torpedo that glints like a silver dart before plunging into the water. The USS Oklahoma, moored nearby, shudders as the projectile bites into her hull, a wound that sends ripples across the harbor. You watch, helpless, as she begins to list, her massive frame tilting with a slowness that belies the violence of her demise. The sight is a knife in your chest, a reminder that these steel giants, your home, are as mortal as the men within them. Your hands move mechanically now, loading, aiming, firing, each motion a desperate prayer against the odds. The gun's rhythm is your anchor, a pulse to cling to as the world dissolves into fire and noise. A sailor beside you curses, his words a litany of rage and futility, as he wrestles with a jammed magazine. You want to help, but another plane dives, its machine guns raking the deck with a sound like hail on a tin roof. You duck, the air hissing with bullets, and a shard of metal grazes your arm, leaving a hot sting you barely register. A quiet, bitter thought surfaces. You wanted to be a hero, but heroism, it seems, is just surviving long enough to fire one more shot. The harbor is a graveyard of smoke and steel. The USS West Virginia, now a pyre, her flames casting an eerie glow across the water. You glimpse other ships, Nevada, Maryland, California, each fighting their own battles, their guns blazing in a chorus of defiance. History will count the numbers. 183 planes in the first wave, a meticulously planned assault by the Imperial Japanese Navy. But you don't know that. You only know the weight of the gun in your hands, the sting of sweat in your eyes, and the relentless swarm overhead. The Arizona's deck vibrates with every hit, each tremor a warning that time is running out. You fire again, the gun's roar a fleeting rebellion against a sky that's turned traitor. A sailor collapses nearby, his leg twisted at an impossible angle, his face pale but defiant. You hesitate, torn between the gun and the urge to drag him to safety. The petty officer's voice cuts through. Stay on the gun. You obey, though it feels like a betrayal, your hands shaking as you aim at another plane. Its wings tilt, a mocking salute, before it releases a bomb that arcs toward the USS Tennessee. The explosion sends a plume of water skyward, drenching the Arizona's deck in a salty mist that tastes like defeat. You wonder, in a fleeting corner of your mind, how today's world would see this. Would they marvel at your stubbornness, or mourn the innocence you're losing with every shot? The gun jams, a grinding screech that snaps you back to the moment. You curse under your breath, prying at the mechanism with fingers slick from sweat and grime. The sailor beside you, his face streaked with soot, offers a grim chuckle. Piece of junk, he mutters, as if the gun's failure is the real enemy. You force a nod, your hands working faster, and the gun sputters back to life. You fire, the recoil a familiar jolt, but the sky seems no emptier, the planes no fewer. The Arizona groans louder now, a wounded beast, and you feel the deck tilt ever so slightly, a subtle shift that screams of worse to come. You think of the men below, sealed in steel tombs, their voices silenced before they could fight. The thought is a weight, heavy and unyielding, but you push it down, focusing on the gun, the sky, the next shot. Time blurs, a haze of smoke and sound where seconds stretch into forever. Your arms ache, your throat roar from shouting orders you barely hear. The harbor is a cauldron of fire, the air thick with the stench of burning oil and twisted metal. You catch a glimpse of a sailor dragging another to cover, their silhouettes blurred by the haze, and you wonder if they'll make it. You wonder if you will. The irony is a quiet shadow in your mind. You joined the Navy to see the world, but the world, it seems, has come to you, wrapped in fire and ruin. You fire again, the gun's rhythm your only constant, a fragile thread tying you to the boy you were before the sky turned to ash. The Arizona's deck is a battlefield now, littered with debris, shattered crates, tangled hoses, the remnants of lives interrupted. You don't look at the faces of the fallen, not because you don't care, but because caring would break you. The planes keep coming, their engines a relentless dirge, and you fire until your hands are numb, until the sky is a blur of smoke and steel. You're surviving, but survival is a thief, stealing pieces of you with every shot. The harbor burns, the Arizona trembles, and you, caught in this crucible, are learning what it means to fight when hope is just a memory. The sky is a furnace of vengeance, its roar a relentless hymn that drowns your thoughts as you cling to the anti-aircraft gun on the USS Arizona. The metal sears your palms, a cruel reminder that even steel can't shield you from this inferno. Smoke chokes the air, a grey shroud veiling the harbor, yet through its haze, the Japanese planes carve their deadly arcs, their wings glinting like razors in the fractured dawn. Your shoulders ache from the gun's recoil, your ears ring with a high-pitched wail, but you fire on. Each burst a fleeting defiance against a fate that feels written in fire. The USS Arizona shudders beneath you, her steel heart pounding as if she knows the end is near. You're 19, a sailor caught in a storm of history, and the world you knew has crumbled into ash. A new sound pierces the chaos, a deep, guttural groan, not from your ship, but from across the harbor. You steal a glance, your eyes burning from the sting of smoke, and see the USS Oklahoma, moored nearby, begin to tilt. Her massive hull, a fortress of American might, leans with an eerie grace, as if bowing to an unseen executioner. The sight grips your chest, a cold fist squeezing tight, as a red-painted underside emerges from the water, exposed and vulnerable, like a wound laid bare. Torpedoes, those silver darts of destruction, have found their mark, and now she surrenders, slow and inevitable, to the harbor's embrace. You watch, frozen, as she rolls, her mast dipping toward the sea, her deck awash with men scrambling like ants fleeing a flood. The Oklahoma's crew fights for life, their silhouettes tiny against the ship's vast frame. Some cling to railings, others leap into the oil-slicked water, their cries swallowed by the harbor's roar. You want to scream, to help, but the gun demands your hands, the sky, your eyes. A plane dives low, its engine a banshee's wail, and you swing the barrel, firing wildly, the shells vanishing into the haze. Did you hit it? You don't care. The Oklahoma's plight haunts you, a mirror of your own fragility, and a bitter thought slinks through your mind. You built these ships to conquer oceans, but oceans, it seems, bow to no one. You shake it off, your fingers tightening on the controls, but the image lingers, a ghost you can't outrun. The harbor is a cauldron now, each ship a burning ember in a sea of flame. The USS West Virginia spews black plumes, her decks alight, while the USS Nevada, battered but defiant, tries to steam toward open water. You glimpse their guns flashing, a chorus of resistance, but the Japanese planes are relentless, their red circle insignias a taunt etched against the sky. History will record this as the second wave. 171 more planes joining the assault, but you know only the weight of their presence. A swarm that turns the morning into a slaughterhouse. Your gun jams again, a grating snarl, and you curse, prying at the mechanism with trembling hands. A sailor beside you, his face a mask of grime, mutters, "Keep shooting, kid," his voice flat, as if hope is a currency he's already spent. Another torpedo strikes the Oklahoma, the explosion sending a shockwave that ripples through the Arizona's hull. You wince, the sound a hammer against your skull, and watch as she rolls further, her belly fully exposed, a grotesque parody of surrender. Men slide down her deck, their screams faint but piercing, a sound that cuts deeper than the klaxons. You think of the sailors trapped inside, pounding on steel walls as water floods their world, and a quiet despair settles in your gut. They're your brothers, not by blood, but by bond, and their fate is a shadow creeping closer to your own. A wry observation flickers, unbidden. You enlisted to see the world, but the world, it seems, prefers to show you its teeth. You force your focus back to the gun, clearing the jam with a savage yank. The barrel roars again, spitting defiance, but the sky remains unyielding, the planes weaving through your fire with mocking ease. A Zero fighter streaks past, so low you feel the rush of its wake, its machine guns stitching a deadly line across the Arizona's deck. You duck, the air hissing with bullets, and a shard of steel grazes your cheek, leaving a warm trickle you ignore. The sailor beside you grunts, clutching his arm, blood seeping through his fingers. But he stays at his post, his jaw set. You admire him, this stranger who fights on, and wonder if you look as broken, as brave in his eyes. The Oklahoma is nearly gone now, her hull inverted, a tomb of steel sinking into the harbor's depths. You imagine the men inside, their last breaths stolen by water and darkness, and a shudder runs through you, not from cold, but from the weight of their loss. Over 400 souls, history will say. But you don't need numbers to feel the void. You fire again, the gun's rhythm a desperate mantra. Each shot a plea to keep the Arizona alive, to keep yourself from joining the Oklahoma's fate. The harbor burns, a sea of oil and fire, and you wonder, in a fleeting corner of your mind, how today's world would judge this moment. Would they honor your struggle or pity the innocence you're shedding with every shell? The Arizona trembles, a deep, ominous pulse that speaks of wounds unseen. You glance at the deck, littered with debris, shattered glass, twisted metal, a sailor's cap floating in a pool of oil. You don't see Jimmy, your friend, and the absence gnaws at you, a quiet fear you push down. The klaxons wail on, a dirge for a fleet unraveling, but you focus on the gun, the sky, the next plane. A Cape bomber dives, its payload glinting, and you track it, firing until your arms scream, until the world narrows to the arc of your shells and the shadow of death overhead. You miss the bomb splashing harmlessly into the water, but the reprieve feels hollow, a cruel tease in a game you're losing. The harbor's agony is a tapestry of ruin, each ship a thread pulled loose by the enemy's hand. You glimpse the USS Maryland, her guns still blazing, and the USS Tennessee, her deck scarred but defiant. They fight on like you, but the weight of the assault is crushing, a tide you can't stem. You think of home, a fleeting image of your mother's kitchen, the smell of bread, the sound of laughter, and it feels like a betrayal to long for it now. A bitter thought surfaces, sly and uninvited. You wanted to make history, but history, it seems, prefers to break you first. You fire again, the guns roar your only answer, a fragile act of will against a sky that's turned to slaughter. The planes keep coming, their engines a relentless requiem, and you fire until your vision blurs, until the sky is a haze of smoke and steel. You're alive, but life is a thief, stealing your breath, your hope, with every shot. The Oklahoma's inverted hull haunts you, a silent accusation, and you wonder if the Arizona will follow, if you'll be trapped in her steel embrace. You fire on, a boy caught in a crucible, learning what it means to endure when the world you trusted turns to flame. You've abandoned the anti-aircraft gun, its barrel too hot to touch, its shell spent in a futile dance with the sky. Smoke chokes the air, a bitter veil that stings your eyes and clings to your throat, tasting of ash and betrayal. The harbor is an inferno, a sea of fire and twisted metal, yet you move through it, driven by a need to find Jimmy, your friend, whose absence gnaws at your chest like a living thing. The deck is a labyrinth of debris, shattered crates, coiled hoses, A sailor's shoe lying alone, its laces singed. Each step feels like a defiance, a refusal to let this chaos claim you, though the weight of it presses down, heavy as a grave. You stumble forward, your boots catching on a jagged piece of metal, the air thick with the stench of burning paint and oil. The klaxons wail on, a relentless dirge that blends with the distant screams of men and the roar of flames. You're searching for Jimmy, his grin a beacon in your memory, a tether to the boy you were before the sky turned to slaughter. The forward turret looms through the haze, its silhouette blurred, and you head toward it, hoping he's still there, still fighting. A sailor brushes past, his face a mask of soot and desperation, dragging a wounded comrade whose arm hangs limp, blood dripping like a broken faucet. You want to stop, to help, but a quiet, bitter thought surfaces. Helping one man won't stop the sky from falling. A blast rocks the deck, a deep concussion that sends you sprawling, your palms scraping against hot steel. You scramble to your knees, gasping as the Arizona groans, a mournful sound that echoes in your bones. The flames are closer now, licking the forward deck, their heat a malevolent presence that sears your skin even from a distance. You crawl, your hands fumbling over debris, your eyes scanning for Jimmy's familiar frame. You spot him near the turret, wrestling with a fire hose, its spray feeble against the inferno. "Jimmy," you shout, your voice raw, but it's swallowed by the chaos, a whisper against a storm. He doesn't hear, his focus locked on the flames, his silhouette a defiant shadow amidst the ruin. You push forward, dodging a fallen beam, its end glowing red from the fire's embrace. The harbor beyond is a graveyard of giant ships burning, listing, their hulls scarred by the enemy's relentless assault. The USS Maryland's guns still fire, their flashes a faint rebellion. But the USS California is sinking, her deck awash with water and flame. History will note this as the second wave of the Japanese attack, 171 planes joining the first, a meticulously planned onslaught that caught the Pacific Fleet sleeping. But you don't know the numbers, only the weight of their presence, a swarm that turns the morning into a crucible of loss. You reach Jimmy, your hand grabbing his shoulder, and he turns, his eyes wide with a mix of relief and dread. "You're alive," he mutters, his voice hoarse, as if stating it makes it true. The Arizona shudders again, a deeper tremor, like the earth itself is grieving. You both duck as a plane streaks overhead, its machine gun spitting a deadly hail that sparks against the deck. The air is thick with the reek of cordite, a sour tang that coats your tongue, and you wonder, in a fleeting corner of your mind, how the world could shift so fast from coffee and sunlight to this. Jimmy hands you the hose, its weight heavy in your arms, and you aim it at the flames, a futile gesture against a fire that seems to laugh at your efforts. The irony isn't lost on you, though it's a shadow in your thoughts. You joined the Navy to sail the seas, but now you're fighting a fire that's burning your home to ash. A shout cuts through the haze. An officer, his uniform torn, his face streaked with blood, waving you back to the guns. "Hold the line," he bellows, his voice a cracked whip, and you hesitate, torn between the hose and duty. Jimmy shakes his head, a grim smile flickering. "Go," he says, shoving you toward the gun deck. You want to argue, to stay, but the Arizona's groans grow louder, a warning you can't ignore. You run, your boots pounding steel, your heart pounding louder, and the deck tilts, a subtle shift that speaks of deeper wounds. You glance back, just once, and see Jimmy silhouetted against the flames, still fighting, still here. A quiet despair settles in your gut, a fear that this moment is all you'll have left of him. The gun deck is a chaos of motion. Sailors loading shells, shouting orders, their faces carved with sweat and resolve. You slide into a station, your hands fumbling for the controls, your training a fragile shield against the terror. The sky is a maelstrom. Planes diving like hawks, their red circle insignias a cruel brand against the dawn. You fire, the guns recoil jarring your bones, but the shells vanish into the haze, as if the sky itself is swallowing your defiance. A plane dives low, its bomb glinting like a falling star, and you brace, knowing this one is different, heavier, meant for the Arizona's heart. History will mark this as the moment, a single 800-kilogram bomb that will tear your ship apart. But you don't know that yet. You only know the fire, the smoke, and the desperate need to keep fighting. The deck trembles, a prelude to catastrophe, and you think of the men below, sealed in steel corridors, their fates tied to the Arizona's. You think of your mother, half a world away, unaware that her son is standing on a pyre. The comparison to today's world flickers, unformed but potent. You fight for survival, a raw, unpolished instinct, while others sleep in peace. Their wars fought on screens, not steel. A wry thought surfaces, sly and unbidden. You wanted to be remembered, but memory, it seems, comes at the cost of everything else. You fire again. The guns roar a fleeting anchor. But the Arizona's groans grow louder, a requiem for a ship and a boy on the edge of oblivion. The flames are a wall now, a barrier between you and Jimmy, between you and the life you knew. You don't see him anymore, the smoke too thick, the chaos too vast. The officer's voice rings out again, urging you to hold, but the words feel hollow, a script for a play that's already ended. You fire, your hands numb, your eyes burning, and the sky answers with another plane, its shadow a promise of ruin. The Arizona is dying, and you, caught in her embrace, are learning what it means to fight when hope is a ghost. The bomb is coming, though you don't know it yet, and with it, a moment that will carve your name into history's unyielding stone. You stand frozen on the scorched deck, the air a furnace of smoke and despair, your lungs seared by the reek of molten metal and charred hope. The sky above is a relentless predator. Japanese planes slicing through the haze like vultures, tearing at a still warm corpse. Your hands, raw from gripping the gun, tremble with exhaustion. But it's the absence of Jimmy, your friend, that cuts deepest. A void where his voice should be, swallowed by the inferno. The harbor burns, a sea of oil and fire, and you, a 19-year-old sailor, are caught in a moment where time itself seems to pause, as if fate is drawing a breath before delivering its final blow. A low hum grows, distinct from the cacophony of klaxons and gunfire, a sound that vibrates through your bones like a warning whispered by the gods. You glance upward, eyes stinging, and see a single plane, a Kate bomber, diving straight for the Arizona. Its silhouette is sharp, a dark angel descending, and in its belly, a glint of metal, a bomb, heavy with purpose. Your heart lurches, a primal scream trapped in your chest as the plane releases its payload. The bomb falls, slow and inevitable, a silver comet streaking toward the ship's core. You want to run, to shout, but your legs are lead, your voice a ghost. The world narrows to that glinting arc, a promise of ruin written in the morning's cruel light. The impact isn't a sound, it's a force, a cataclysm that rips through the Arizona's steel heart. The deck erupts, a white-hot flash blinding you, lifting you off your feet as if the earth itself has shrugged you away. The explosion is a roar, Not of fire, but of oblivion. A thunder that drowns the claxons, the screams, the very pulse of life. You're thrown backward, slamming into a bulkhead, the air driven from your lungs. Heat washes over you, a tidal wave of fury that singes your skin, your hair, your soul. The Arizona splits, her forward magazine detonating in a fireball that soars hundreds of feet, a pyre that paints the sky with ash and grief. You lie there, dazed, the world a blur of light and pain, as if time has shattered and left you to gather its pieces. You blink, vision swimming, and crawl to your knees, the deck hot as a forge beneath your palms. The Arizona is broken, her bow a gaping wound, flames dancing where men once stood. You search for Jimmy, your eyes desperate, and find him pinned beneath a twisted beam, its steel warped into a cruel cage. His face is pale, streaked with blood, but his eyes meet yours, wide and pleading. "Go," he whispers, voice faint, a thread fraying in the chaos. You reach for him, fingers clawing at the metal, but the flames are closing in, their heat a living thing that mocks your effort. A quiet, bitter thought surfaces. You enlisted to protect your brothers, but brotherhood, it seems, is no match for fire. You pull harder, muscles screaming, but the beam doesn't budge, and Jimmy's gaze softens, a silent command to save yourself. The choice is a knife, sharp and unforgiving. Stay, and you'll burn. Leave, and you'll carry this moment forever. You hesitate, tears mixing with soot, but Jimmy's hand grips yours, weak but firm. "Go," he repeats, and you do, stumbling backward. Each step a betrayal that carves your heart. The flames roar louder, a chorus of destruction, as you run toward the starboard railing, the deck tilting beneath you like a ship surrendering to the sea. History will call this the moment the Arizona fell, her magazine pierced by an 800-kilogram bomb, claiming 1,177 lives in an instant. But you don't know the numbers, only the weight of Jimmy's whisper, the heat of the fire, and the Arizona's dying groans echoing in your soul. You reach the railing, your hands scorched, your breath a ragged sob. The harbor is a vision of hell, ships burning, sinking, their hulls twisted into grotesque shapes. The USS Nevada, battered but moving, fights to escape, her guns still blazing, while the USS California is swallowed by water and flame. You glance back, hoping against hope, but the flames have claimed the turret, and Jimmy is gone, a shadow lost to the inferno. The Arizona's deck is a graveyard now, littered with the wreckage of lives, shattered gear, bloodied uniforms, a watch stopped at the moment of impact. You want to scream, to curse the sky, but your voice is ash, your anger a flicker against the overwhelming tide of loss. The air is thick with the stench of burning oil, a cloying weight that coats your throat. Planes still dive, their engines a relentless requiem, but the Arizona's guns are silent. Her fight ended in a single, cataclysmic breath. You cling to the railing, your body trembling, your mind a storm of guilt and survival. You think of home, a fleeting image of your mother's hands folding your letter, unaware that her son is standing on a pyre. The comparison to today's world haunts you, unformed but potent. You fight to live, a raw instinct, while others sleep in peace, their wars distant and sanitized. A wry observation slips through, sly and unbidden. You wanted to be a hero, but heroism, it seems, is just surviving long enough to mourn. You look down at the water, oil slicked and burning, a mirror of the chaos above. The Arizona's hull groans a final lament, and you know you can't stay. The flames are closer, their heat a cruel embrace, and the ship is sinking, pulling her dead and dying into the deep. You don't want to jump, but staying is a death sentence, And survival, you're learning, is a thief that demands everything. You climb onto the railing, your hands shaking, and glance back one last time, hoping for a miracle that doesn't come. The Arizona is a tomb now, her steel a monument to a morning that began with coffee and ended in ash. You take a breath, the air searing your lungs, and prepare to leap, knowing that whatever lies beyond will carry the weight of this moment forever. The harbor burns, a sea of fire and loss, and you, a boy caught in history's crucible, are learning what it cost to endure. The Arizona's death will mark the dawn of America's war, a catalyst that will reshape the world. But you don't see the future, only the present, a ship breaking, a friend lost, a sky that offers no mercy. You stand on the edge, the flames at your back, and the irony isn't lost on you, though it's a shadow in your mind. You sail to see the world, but the world has come to you, wrapped in fire and ruin. You jump, not out of courage but necessity, and the water waits below, a final test in a morning that has already taken everything. The air is a cauldron of heat and ash, stinging your eyes, choking your lungs with the bitter reek of oil and despair. Below, the harbor is a nightmare mirror, its surface slick with burning oil, a liquid inferno that dances with cruel indifference. Your heart pounds, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of your resolve, as you teeter on the edge, 19 and alone, caught in a moment where survival feels like a theft. The sky above swarms with Japanese planes, their shadows flitting like ghosts, and you know the jump is your only path, though it leads to a sea that burns as fiercely as the ship you're leaving. You glance back one last time, hoping for a glimpse of Jimmy, but the flames have swallowed the deck, a wall of fire where his silhouette once stood. The Arizona groans, a deep, mournful wail, as if mourning her own end. You want to stay, to search, but the heat presses against your back, a brutal hand urging you forward. Your boots slip on the railing, slick with oil and blood, and you steady yourself, your breath shallow, your mind a storm of fear and guilt. A plane dives low, its engine a scream that cuts through the klaxon's fading cry, and you flinch, nearly losing your balance. A wry thought flickers, unbidden. You train to sail, to fight, but no one taught you how to leap into a sea that's more flame than water. You take a breath, the air searing your throat, and jump. The fall is endless, a heartbeat stretched into eternity as the wind roars past, carrying the stench of burning fuel. You hit the water, and it's a shock, cold at first, then scalding. The oil-slick surface igniting your skin like 1,000 needles. You thrash, arms flailing, as the flames lick at your face, your uniform, your very will to live. The harbor is a graveyard, littered with debris, shattered planks, a life preserver, a body floating face down, its stillness a silent accusation. You kick, desperate, your lungs screaming for air, your eyes blinded by the oil's black sheen. Survival is no longer a choice but a battle, each stroke a defiance against a sea that wants to claim you. You swim, though it's less swimming than clawing through a nightmare. The water is thick, a viscous trap that clings to your limbs, and the flames are everywhere, a glowing cage that shifts with the current. You glimpse other sailors, their faces contorted in pain or blank with shock, struggling as you do, their silhouettes blurred by the heat shimmer. A torpedo's wake ripples past, its path marked by bubbles and fire, and you dive beneath the surface, holding your breath until your chest burns. The underwater world is a muted hell, the muffled roar of explosions vibrating through the depths. You surface, gasping, and a wave of burning oil washes over you, singeing your hair, your skin, A quiet, bitter observation surfaces. You dreamed of adventure, but adventure, it seems, prefers to drown you in fire. A hand grabs your arm, rough and sudden, pulling you toward a shadow in the haze. It's a sailor, his face unrecognizable under a mask of soot, his eyes fierce with purpose. "Move," he growls, dragging you through the water, past a floating crate, past a body you don't dare look at. You kick alongside him, your strength fading, your body a leaden weight. The shore of Ford Island looms ahead, a distant promise of solid ground, but the journey feels infinite, each stroke a battle against the harbor's fiery grasp. The sailor's grip is your lifeline, a tether to a world beyond this burning sea. You don't know his name, but in this moment, he's your brother, a stranger bound to you by the shared will to survive. You reach the shallows, your knees scraping against jagged rocks, and collapse onto the muddy shore, coughing up water and oil, the taste bitter as regret. The sailor kneels beside you, panting, his hands trembling as he wipes soot from his face. "You're alive," he mutters, more to himself than to you, and you nod, though the word feels like a lie. The Arizona burns behind you, her broken hull a pyre against the dawn, her smoke curling skyward like a mourner's lament. You lie there, your chest heaving, your skin raw, and the harbor's chaos surrounds you, ships sinking, men screaming, the air thick with the stench of destruction. History will mark this as the Pearl Harbor attack, a day that claimed 2,403 lives and shattered a fleet. But you know only the weight of your survival, a burden heavier than the flames you escaped. You sit up, your body protesting, and look back at the Arizona, now a twisted skeleton wreathed in fire. The USS Oklahoma lies inverted, her red hull a grotesque monument to loss, while the USS West Virginia and California burn, their decks awash with flame and despair. You think of the men still trapped, their voices silenced in steel tombs, and a quiet grief settles in your chest, a weight you'll carry forever. The comparison to today's world flickers, unformed but sharp. You fought to live, a raw instinct, while others sleep in peace, their battles fought in distant memories. A wry thought slips through, sly and unbidden. You wanted to see the world, but the world, it seems, prefers to burn you first. The shore is chaos, a tangle of wounded sailors and frantic medics, their hands slick with blood and oil. You stumble to your feet, your legs shaky, your uniform charred and clinging to your skin. A sailor nearby weeps, his face buried in his hands, while another stares blankly at the burning harbor, as if the sight has stolen his soul. You want to comfort them, to say something, but words are ash in your mouth, and silence is all you have. The Arizona's flames cast an eerie glow, a false dawn that illuminates the cost of survival. You're alive, but life is a thief, stealing your friend, your ship, your innocence with every breath. You stand on Ford Island, a boy forged in fire, learning what it means to endure when paradise turns to ash. The sky still hums with planes, their shadows fleeting against the smoke, but the harbor's fight is fading, its ships broken or burning. You don't know the future, America's entry into World War II, the war that will reshape the globe, but you feel its weight, a destiny carved in this moment. You think of home, a kitchen table, a mother's smile, and it feels like a betrayal to long for it now. The irony is a quiet shadow in your mind. You sailed to escape the ordinary, but the ordinary, it seems, was the only thing worth keeping. You take a step, your boots sinking into the mud, and the harbor burns on, a testament to a morning that broke you, and a boy who somehow keeps standing. You collapse on Ford Island's muddy shore, a broken puppet cut from its strings, your body heavy with the weight of survival. The ground beneath you is cold, gritty, a stark contrast to the inferno you've escaped, yet it offers no comfort, only a fleeting anchor in a world unmoored. Your lungs heave, expelling the bitter tang of oil and smoke, each breath a ragged prayer for a moment's reprieve. The harbor before you is a vision of apocalypse, a canvas of fire and ruin where ships once stood proud. The USS Arizona, your home, is a shattered husk, her flames soaring like a funeral pyre, casting an eerie glow across the water. You're 19, a sailor stripped bare by history's cruel hand, and as you sit, trembling, the weight of loss settles in your bones, a silent thief stealing the boy you were. The air hums with the fading drone of Japanese planes, their shadows retreating into the smoke-choked sky, leaving behind a harbor that bleeds fire and grief. You force yourself to look, though every instinct begs you to turn away. The USS Oklahoma lies inverted, her red hull a grotesque scar against the dawn, a tomb for hundreds trapped within. The USS West Virginia burns, her deck a furnace, while the USS California sinks slowly, her hull swallowed by the oil-slicked sea. Each ship is a monument to loss, their steel frames twisted into elegies for men who laughed with you just hours ago. You think of their faces, their voices, and a quiet despair coils in your chest, as if their absence is a wound you'll never close. Around you, Ford Island is a chaos of survival. Sailors stagger, some bleeding, others blank-eyed, their uniforms charred and torn. A medic kneels nearby, bandaging a man whose arm ends in a ragged stump, his face calm in a way that feels obscene amidst the carnage. You want to help, to move, but your body refuses, rooted by a fatigue that's more than physical. The klaxons have fallen silent, replaced by the crackle of flames and the soft moans of the wounded, a sound that cuts deeper than any explosion. A sailor beside you mutters, "It's over," but his voice lacks conviction, as if he knows this is only the beginning of a longer, darker storm. A wry thought slips through your mind, unbidden. You survived the fire, but survival, it seems, is just a prelude to morning. You shift, your hands sinking into the mud, and notice a piece of debris washed ashore, a fragment of the Arizona's deck, its edges blackened, a relic of the life you've lost. You pick it up, the wood warm against your palm, and it feels like holding a piece of your own heart, broken but still beating. The harbor's flames reflect in your eyes, a mirror of the chaos within, and you wonder how a morning that began with sunlight could end in this. History will call this the Pearl Harbor attack, a meticulously planned assault by 354 Japanese planes that killed 2,403 and wounded 1,178, shattering the Pacific Fleet in a single stroke. But you don't know the numbers, only the weight of the silence, the stench of burning steel, and the faces you'll never see again. A breeze stirs, carrying the acrid scent of destruction, and you notice a tattered American flag, still clinging to a mast on the Arizona's sinking hull. It flutters defiantly, a ragged symbol of a nation wounded but unbowed, and something stirs within you, a flicker of resolve, fragile as a candle in a storm. You think of the men who raised that flag, men like you, who believed in something greater than themselves. Their sacrifice is a shadow in your mind, a reminder that survival is not just living, but carrying their memory forward. The comparison to today's world haunts you, unformed but sharp. You sit in the mud, a boy forged in fire, while others live in a peace you paid for with blood and ash. You stand, your legs unsteady, your uniform stiff with dried oil and soot. A sailor nearby weeps openly, his hands clutching a photograph, its edges curling in the heat. You don't look at it, not out of indifference, but because you know it holds a story you can't bear. You move toward a group of survivors, their faces etched with shock and defiance, and help a man to his feet, his arm slung over your shoulder. The act is small, almost meaningless against the harbor's vast ruin, but it anchors you, a thread of purpose in a world unraveling. A quiet, bitter observation surfaces. You wanted to be a hero, but heroism, it seems, is just holding a stranger's weight when your own is too much to bear. The harbor's flames burn on, a relentless requiem for a fleet broken in a single morning. You see the USS Maryland, scarred but standing, her guns silent now, and the USS Tennessee, her deck littered with wreckage. Each ship is a story of loss, a testament to men who fought and fell, their names unknown to you but carved into your soul. You think of home, a fleeting image of your mother's kitchen, the smell of coffee, the sound of a radio playing soft, and it feels like a betrayal to long for it now. The irony is a quiet shadow in your thoughts. You enlisted to escape the ordinary, but the ordinary, it seems, was the only thing worth fighting for. You sit again, your back against a crate, your hands trembling as you trace the Arizona's fragment in your palm. The harbor's chaos fades to a dull roar, the flames a hypnotic dance that holds your gaze. You don't cry, though the urge is there, a pressure behind your eyes you refuse to release. Instead, you think of the men still out there, swimming, burning, dying, and a quiet resolve takes root, a seed planted in the mud of Ford Island. You're alive, but life is a debt, one you'll pay with every breath, every memory of this day. The flag on the Arizona flutters still, a beacon in the smoke, and you know, with a certainty that cuts like glass, that this is not the end but a beginning, a war you'll carry in your bones. The morning is gone, replaced by a twilight of fire and loss. You don't know the future. America's declaration of war, the years of blood and sacrifice that will follow, but you feel its weight, a destiny forged in this harbor's flames. You stand once more, your body aching, your soul heavier than the steel you've left behind. The harbor burns, a testament to a day that broke you, and you, a boy caught in history's crucible, are learning what it means to endure when paradise is ash. You take a step, the mud sucking at your boots, and the flames cast your shadow long, a silhouette of survival, defiance, and a grief that will never fade. The mud of Ford Island clings to your knees, a cold, unyielding embrace that anchors you to a world reshaped by fire. You sit, your back against a splintered crate, your 19-year-old frame trembling with the weight of survival. The harbor before you is a requiem of smoke and ruin, its waters choked with the wreckage of ships that were once your shield. The USS Arizona, your home, burns in the distance, her flames a mournful hymn rising into the Hawaiian dawn. Your breath is shallow, each inhale laced with the acrid sting of oil and loss, and your eyes fix on a tattered American flag, still clinging to a shattered mast on the Arizona's sunken hull. It flutters, defiant yet frail, a beacon of resolve amidst a sea of despair, and you feel its pull, a silent call to endure when all else is ash. The air is heavy, thick with the reek of charred steel and fading hope. You shift, your hands brushing the gritty earth, and notice a sailor nearby, his face buried in his palms, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. You don't approach. Grief is a private wound, and you have your own to bear. The harbor's flames cast long shadows, their flicker a cruel mimicry of the life you knew hours ago. The USS Oklahoma lies dead, her inverted hull a silent monument to hundreds lost, while the USS West Virginia and California smolder, their wounds bleeding into the sea. You think of the men inside, their laughter silenced, their future stolen, and a quiet ache settles in your chest, as if their absence is a weight you're doomed to carry. A medic moves through the chaos, his hands steady despite the blood staining his sleeves. He kneels beside a sailor whose leg is wrapped in a makeshift tourniquet, offering a canteen with a gentleness that feels out of place in this hell. You watch, your gaze distant, and wonder how he finds the strength to keep going when the world has fractured. Your own strength feels borrowed, a fragile thread woven from necessity rather than courage. A wry thought slips through unbidden. You enlisted to sail the seas, but the seas, it seems, have chosen to drown you in sorrow. You push it aside, your fingers tracing the mud, grounding yourself in the earth's cold reality. The flag on the Arizona catches your eye again. Its stars faded but unyielding, a symbol that speaks of a nation wounded yet unbroken. You think of the men who raised it, their hands steady despite the drills, the monotony, the quiet dreams of home. They're gone now, most of them, their lives woven into the steel that burns across the harbor. You wonder what they fought for, duty, pride, or something simpler, like the hope of a tomorrow that never came. The comparison to your own time flickers, a shadow in your mind. You sit in the mud, a boy forged in tragedy, while others in a distant future will know this day only through books, their peace a gift you're paying for with every breath. You rise, your legs unsteady, your uniform stiff with dried oil and soot. A sailor stumbles past, his eyes hollow, clutching a dog tag that no longer belongs to a living man. You don't ask whose it is. Some questions are too heavy to voice. Instead, you move toward a group of survivors, their faces a gallery of shock and resilience, and help a man to his feet, his arms slung over your shoulder. His weight is a burden, but it's also a tether, a reminder that you're still here, still human. You guide him to a makeshift aid station, where a medic nods in silent gratitude, and you feel a flicker of purpose, faint but real, like a star piercing the smoke. The harbor's flames burn lower now, their roar softened to a crackle, but the devastation remains, a tapestry of broken steel and shattered lives. You pause, your gaze drifting to the Arizona's flag, its tattered edges dancing in the breeze. It's a relic, a survivor like you, and its stubborn presence stirs something deep within, a resolve to carry on, not for glory, but for the men who can't. You think of home, a fleeting vision of your mother's hands folding laundry, unaware that her son is a ghost among the living. A bitter observation surfaces, sly and uninvited. You wanted to make your mark, but the mark, it seems, is a scar you'll wear forever. You kneel, your hands scooping mud, and find a small piece of the Arizona, a splinter of wood, charred but whole. You tuck it into your pocket, a talisman of survival, a reminder of the cost. The harbor is quiet now, save for the moans of the wounded and the distant hum of planes fading into the horizon. History will record this as the Pearl Harbor attack, a day that killed 2,403 and wounded 1,978, a catalyst for a war that will reshape the world. But you don't know the numbers, only the weight of the flag's shadow, the sting of smoke in your lungs, and the faces you'll never forget. You stand, your body aching, and take a step, the mud sucking at your boots, a silent vow to keep moving, to honor the dead by living. The flag flutters on, a ragged beacon in a harbor of ruin, and you feel its call, a whisper to endure when all else is lost. You think of the men who raised it, their lives now part of the Arizona's steel grave, and a quiet resolve takes root, a seed planted in the mud of Ford Island. You're alive, but life is a debt, one you'll pay with every memory of this day. The comparison to today's world lingers, a faint echo. You fight for breath in a world of fire, while others will walk in peace, their freedom bought with your scars. You take another step, the harbor burning behind you, and the flag's shadow follows, a testament to a boy who survived when paradise turned to ash. Night falls over Ford Island, a velvet curtain drawn across a day that bled fire and steel. You sit on a crate, your 19-year-old frame hunched, your hands cradling a chipped tin cup, its contents long cold. The air is heavy with the lingering reek of oil and ash, a bitter reminder of the harbor's ruin. But the stars above gleam sharp and indifferent, as if the sky has already forgotten the morning's slaughter. Your uniform, stiff with dried mud and soot, clings to your skin, a second scar you wear alongside the ache in your chest. The distant crackle of dying flames hums like a lullaby gone wrong, and you, a sailor forged in the crucible of loss, feel the weight of survival settle like a stone, cold and unyielding, in your soul. The harbor is quiet now, a deceptive stillness broken only by the soft moans of the wounded and the rustle of medics moving through the shadows. You glance at the water, where the USS Arizona's remains smolder, a ghostly silhouette against the moon's faint glow. Her loss is a wound you can't name, a home reduced to embers, and with it, the memory of men who were your brothers. You think of their laughter, their stories of girls back home, and a quiet grief coils within you, a serpent that bites without warning. A sailor nearby lights a cigarette, its ember a tiny star in the dark, and offers you a drag. You take it, the smoke harsh and acrid, a fleeting warmth that doesn't touch the cold inside. You lean back, the crate creaking under your weight, and listen to the night. A sailor's voice drifts from a nearby tent, low and halting, recounting a memory of a dance hall in San Diego. His words a fragile bridge to a life before this day. Another man, his face hidden in shadow, responds with a story of his own. A fishing trip, a sunburned afternoon, a father's proud nod. You don't join in, but their voices anchor you, a reminder that you're not alone, though solitude feels like your only companion. A wry thought slips through, unbidden. You enlisted to escape the quiet of home, but quiet, it seems, is all that's left when the world burns down. The stars above are a map you can't read, their patterns unfamiliar, as if the sky itself has shifted to mark this day. You trace them with your eyes, searching for meaning, for a sign that this loss has purpose. The Arizona's memory haunts you, her steel grave a testament to 1,177 lives snuffed out in a single morning. A number you'll learn later, but feel now, heavy as the night. You think of the flag that clung to her mast, tattered but defiant, and a spark of resolve flickers, faint but stubborn, like a candle refusing the wind. You're alive, but life is a debt, one you owe to those who didn't make it, a burden you'll carry through wars yet to come. A breeze stirs, cool against your burned skin, carrying the faint salt of the Pacific and the distant scent of charred wood. You shift, pulling a small notebook from your pocket, its pages creased and smudged. You don't write, not yet, but you hold it, a talisman against the chaos, a promise to remember. The sailor with the cigarette speaks again, his voice softer now, telling of a letter he wrote but never sent. Words meant for a sister who'll never know this day. You nod, understanding, and a quiet thought surfaces. You wanted to be remembered, but memory it seems, is a scar that never fades. You tuck the notebook away, your fingers lingering on its edges, and let the night stillness wash over you. The comparison to today's world lingers, a shadow in your mind. You sit under a sky that saw your world break, while others, in a future you can't imagine, will sleep in peace. Their wars fought in stories, not flames. Their freedom is a gift you're buying with this moment, with the weight of every man lost in the harbor. You think of your mother, her hands folding your last letter, unaware that her son is a ghost among the living. The irony is a quiet blade. You sailed to find adventure, but adventure found you, wrapped in fire and sorrow. You exhale, the cigarette smoke curling upward, a fleeting ghost that joins the stars. A medic passes, his silhouette weary but purposeful, carrying a tray of bandages stained with the day's toll. You watch him, marveling at his steadiness, a man who moves through hell with hands that still heal. You want to be like him, to find purpose in this ruin, but your own hands shake, your heart heavy with the names you'll never forget. You think of the men who shared your bunk, their dreams now ash in the harbor, and a resolve takes root, not loud but deep, a vow to carry their memory forward. The night is your witness, its stars silent judges, and you feel the weight of history settling on your shoulders, a mantle you didn't choose but can't refuse. You lie back, the crate hard against your spine, and let the stars fill your vision. The night is cool, almost gentle, a stark contrast to the morning's fire. You don't sleep, not yet, but you close your eyes, listening to the harbor's faint requiem, the crackle of embers, the whisper of waves, the soft voices of survivors weaving their stories into the dark. You're alive, a fact that feels both miraculous and cruel, and you know this day will mark you forever, a scar etched in your soul. The comparison to a future world haunts you. You fight for breath in a night of loss, while others will walk in peace, their lives untouched by the flames you've endured. The sailor beside you stubs out his cigarette, the ember fading like a star swallowed by dawn. He doesn't speak, but his presence is enough, a shared silence that binds you. You think of the Arizona, her steel grave a monument to a day that changed the world, and you know, with a certainty that cuts like glass, that this is not the end but a beginning. You're a sailor, a survivor, and the war that looms will demand everything you have left. The night wraps around you, a quiet promise of battles to come. And you, a boy forged in fire, learn what it means to live when paradise is ash. Dawn creeps over Ford Island, a pale light that feels more like a question than a promise. You sit on a splintered crate, your 19-year-old body a map of bruises and burns, your hands clasped tight to still their trembling. The air is cool, laced with the fading scent of oil and ash, a ghost of the harbor's ruin that stretches before you. The USS Arizona's wreckage smolders in the distance, her steel bones a silent elegy for the men who were your kin. Your breath catches, a quiet sob you don't release, as you trace the horizon where the sea meets a sky no longer stained with fire. You're a sailor, a survivor, and in this fragile morning, you feel the weight of a vow forming, cold and unyielding as steel, a promise to carry forward what this day has carved into your soul. The harbor is a graveyard, its waters littered with the husks of ships, Oklahoma inverted, West Virginia scarred, California half sunken in defeat. The silence is heavy, broken only by the soft shuffle of medics and the murmurs of survivors, their voices weaving a tapestry of grief and resolve. You shift, your boots sinking into the mud, and pull a small notebook from your pocket. its pages warped by salt and time. You write, your hand unsteady. Today I lived, I won't forget. The words are simple, but they anchor you, a lifeline to the boy you were before the flames, a testament to the men who didn't make it. A wry thought flickers, unbidden. You wanted to be a hero, but heroism, it seems, is just carrying the dead in your heart. A sailor approaches, his face gaunt, offering a canteen with a nod. You take a sip, the water metallic and warm, a reminder of the world you've lost. He sits beside you, silent, his eyes fixed on the harbor's wreckage, and you share a moment of quiet kinship. Two strangers bound by survival. You think of the men you've known, their laughter now a memory, their dreams buried in the Arizona's steel. History will call this the Pearl Harbor attack, a day that claimed 2,403 lives and thrust America into a war that will reshape the globe. But you don't know the future, only the weight of this moment, the debt you owe to those who fell. You glance at the sailor, his hands trembling as he lights a cigarette, and you wonder what he's lost. Though you don't ask, some wounds are too raw to name. The sky lightens, its pale glow a contrast to the darkness within you. You think of the flag that clung to the Arizona's mast, tattered but defiant, and feel a spark ignite, a resolve that burns brighter than the harbor's flames. You're no longer the boy who dreamed of Honolulu's lights, who wrote of paradise to a mother half a world away. You're a survivor, marked by fire, and this day has forged you into something harder, something steel. The comparison to a future world lingers, a shadow in your thoughts. You sit in the ashes of a broken morning, while others will walk in peace, their lives untouched by the scars you bear. You envy them, yet you don't, for survival is a gift, heavy but precious, a flame you'll carry through the wars to come. You stand, your legs unsteady, and walk toward the water's edge, the mud sucking at your boots like a reluctant farewell. The harbor's wreckage is a silent accusation, each ship a story of loss and defiance. You think of the men who raised the Arizona's flag, their hands steady despite the weight of duty, and you feel their presence, a quiet strength that bolsters your own. You want to honor them, to live for them, though the path ahead is a fog of uncertainty. A bitter observation surfaces, sly and uninvited. You sail to find glory, but glory, it seems, is just the stubborn act of breathing when all else is gone. You push it aside, your hand tightening on the notebook, its pages a vow you'll keep. A medic calls out, his voice weary but firm, organizing survivors for transport to a makeshift hospital. You turn, your gaze lingering on the Arizona's smoldering remains, and help a sailor to his feet, his arm slung over your shoulder. His weight is heavy, but it grounds you, a reminder that you're still here, still human. You guide him toward the medics, their hands moving with a quiet efficiency that feels almost sacred. The harbor's silence is a wait, a pause before the world shifts, and you know, with a certainty that cuts like glass, that this day is not the end but a beginning. America will rise, history will say, declaring war on Japan, forging a path through years of blood and sacrifice, but you don't see that yet. Only the mud, the smoke, and the vow taking root in your heart. You pause, your eyes tracing the horizon where dawn meets sea, and feel the steel within you harden. You think of home, a fleeting image of your mother's smile, a kitchen table, a life untouched by fire, and it feels like a betrayal to long for it now. The irony is a quiet blade. You enlisted to escape the ordinary, but the ordinary, it seems, is what you'll fight to reclaim. You write one last line in your notebook. I'll carry them forward. The words are a promise, a debt to the men who fell, a vow to live not just for yourself but for them. The harbor's wreckage fades into the dawn, its flames a dying echo, and you stand, a boy forged in fire, ready for a war you can't yet imagine. The morning is new, fragile, and you take a step, your boots steady despite the mud. The survivors around you move, their faces etched with grief and resolve, and you feel a kinship, a shared strength that binds you. The Arizona's loss is a scar, but it's also a beacon, a call to endure when all else is lost. You don't know the battles ahead, the years of war that will test you, but you know this. You'll carry this day, its flames, its faces, in every breath. The comparison to a future world haunts you. You stand in the ashes of a broken dawn, while others will live in a peace you've bought with your scars. You walk forward, the harbor at your back, and the vow in your heart burns cold and unyielding as steel. A promise to live, to fight, to remember. As the stars settle over the ashes of Pearl Harbor, you've walked through fire, felt the weight of loss, and carried a vow forged in steel. The USS Arizona's flames fade, but their echo lingers, a whisper of survival in your weary heart. Let your shoulders soften now, dear listener, and let the night's gentle breeze cradle you. Close your eyes, breathe slow, and let the harbor's ghost rest as you drift toward sleep. If you're still awake, share your thoughts below. Where does this tale find you? Tomorrow, another story waits, a new journey to soothe your restless mind. For now, let the stars guide you to dreams where the scars of history fade into peace. Sleep well, and let the night carry you home.